day one, winners and losers. We'll dive into the rest of the deals in a minute as well. Breach, give me your day one winner.
My day one winners, because I have multiple, actually, it's a group of people. It is running backs. Look, they had a dead market last year, absolutely nothing. And now here they are just getting deals left and right. We obviously just talked about Derrick Henry. We mentioned Aaron Jones. We mentioned Saquon Barkley, but then we saw Josh Jacobs get a nice, even if he only lasts in Green Bay for 1 year, I think he's going to get $14 million. That's a heck of a contract. Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, just all these guys waited that 1 year thinking, my God, is there going to be a deal? Are people actually going to pay us this year? Because no one paid us last year. And here we are where we had a bunch of these guys switch teams and get paid. So good for you, running backs.
Yeah, Sully, I mean, I think the drama surrounding the running backs is interesting too, just because of, as you point out, Sully, like all the different teams, all the guys switching teams. Like it's fantasy football. People are probably winners because you've got all this like different movement amongst these guys. How do you rank them? People are going to say, like, is Aaron Jones like too banged up? Is Josh Jacobs washed? Like, a lot of different things. Sully, who's your winner from day one?
My winner is, it's clear cut. It's the Atlanta Falcons. They were able to get their quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, Breach, that like, obviously you do have to throw in the caveat that this dude is going to be 36 and coming off an Achilles. Like there is that element to it. So we don't necessarily know for certain that he's going to be Kirk Cousins, but if he's anywhere close, he's better than any quarterback they've had since Matt Ryan. And when we finally see this offense live up to its potential at the skill positions, whether it's Drake London, Kyle Pitts, or Bijan Robinson, or even extended to today, them signing Darnell Mooney, I just really like the direction that this offense is going now that they have a quarterback that's capable of getting all of these guys the ball. Even if he's not 100%, he'll be smart enough to deploy the ball where it needs to go and just get the ball into the hands of these playmakers. I think it's going to be a much better offense. I think Atlanta's now the team to beat in that division. I just think it's a great move for Cousins too, because it's a better offensive line than he had in Minnesota.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, look, that Falcons would have been my choice for winners. If I was going first, or I filled in the blank before you did, they went and got, Kirk Cousins didn't really it's not a poison pill, but the part of this, when he restructured his contract last offseason, it basically said the Vikings were going to have to re-sign him before Wednesday. And Cousins like, no, I'm going to explore my options. And I think the Falcons were willing to give him the contract he wanted. I said this on HQ, and like, excuse me, Chris Hassel sort of like called me insane for it. But do you think that you could kind of say Atlanta, and I was sort of thinking this in football terms, not necessarily like just the pure city, but Atlanta's like kind of similar to like a Minnesota, like a southern version of Minnesota, just in this, or Minneapolis, just in the sense it's like there's not a ton of media attention. You're playing in a dome. You've got this like, sort of a low, like, I don't know, it seems like a similar fit to what he had in Minneapolis. Like, he can go to a Braves game and nobody's going to be bugging him. I don't know. Am I crazy for that take?
Well, I know what you're saying. He's not going to Philadelphia. He's not going to Boston. He's not going to New York,
right,
where the microscope is on you so much. I mean, like, the towns are totally different, but
right,
from
yeah,
sports environment, I get
say like Minneapolis and Atlanta are similar cities, because they're really, really not. They're very different in like the way that they're set up in like the suburbs and all of that, and then of course like Minneapolis. Anyway, the point being is that like I think they're similar franchise. Just I don't know. There's just something similar and like comforting about it, I think. And if you're Kirk Cousins, you get a huge paycheck breach, and you go to a team where you can contend.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins has to be thrilled knowing he upgraded the offensive line, which is probably the thing he loves most, considering he's coming off an Achilles injury. We talked a lot about the weapons. We're going to talk about another weapon that he added a little bit later, so I won't mention that receiver's name. But yeah, I think if you're Kirk Cousins, if you're the Atlanta Falcons, you have to be thrilled. I mean, this is a team that just really, since the past 2 years, they're trying to figure out who their starting quarterback is. They just haven't been relevant. You have 3 straight 7-10 seasons. They haven't had a winning season since 2017. And so for me, and this kind of goes to what Brinson says, is the bar's not very high. If Kirk Cousins goes 9-8 next season, no one in Atlanta is going to complain. They're going to be thrilled because they have 7 straight losing seasons or 6 straight losing seasons, whatever the number is. So that's the bar. Get them 9-8, and everyone in Atlanta will be happy for at least 2024.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I was kind of bouncing around on my winners and losers. I'm gonna give 2 names actually in the same division. I'm gonna say that Sam Darnold, late night ad by the Minnesota Vikings, I guess, which we'll get to in a minute. But technically a Monday ad, I think, right? Day 1? Wasn't Sam Darnold day 1 or is he day 2?
Yeah, fine. Give him day 1. Whatever, you know.
No, we'll do day 1, and I'll say that we'll do day 2 for Sam Darnold. Then I'll say a day 1 winner is the Green Bay Packers. And I know they lose Aaron Jones, who they love, but they go out and, I was reading Ty Dunn at golongtd.com, and he was sort of talking. He used to cover the Packers. He has Bob again working there as well. But he was writing. He thinks that he talked to Brian Gutekunst, who said not necessarily going to shove all in on this season just because Jordan Love had this great first year as a starter, and they go and win a playoff game. But they did shove all in. They went and got Josh Jacobs, who, when healthy, can lead the league in rushing. And Aaron Jones, great player, dynamic player. The contractual stuff with Aaron Jones, they didn't want to miss out on a running back. That was the other problem. I read a report out there that essentially it was in The Athletic with Matt Schneiderman and Diana Rossini, but they basically did not want to miss out on a running back like Jacobs because the way that the Packers operate, they gave Aaron Jones their final offer, like their highest offer, to redo his deal. And Jones was going back and forth on it. They didn't want to go sign Jacobs and have Aaron Jones then say, yeah, I'll take that offer and sign the offer. So they pulled the offer to Jones and told him they were going to cut him. And that's when they went and got Jacobs. So, I love both players, different players. Aaron Jones more dynamic in the passing game. I think Jacobs is maybe a better fit if you really want to pound the ball. And then Xavier McKinney, who they go out and sign as a in terms of the safety. I think they just go down spending on both sides of the ball, and then they have Jeff Hafley there, who's a major upgrade for defensive coordinator. So I'll throw the Packers as a day 1 winner.
Yeah, I'll agree with you with that. I mean, I was saying it yesterday that the Packers have been trying to find a new running back, a high upside running back, for basically a year. I mean, they were in on Jonathan Taylor when he was having contract issues, and weren't able to get something done, but they clearly were looking to upgrade or get younger at that position, and they do that here with Josh Jacobs. And the fact that you get rid of AJ Dillon and you get rid of Aaron Jones, like I think I said it yesterday, it was like 320 carries that are now up for grabs in that offense. So I do think that he is going to be a fascinating addition for them. And as I think you were kind of alluding to, right? It's as impressive as Jordan Love was last year, I don't think you just open up the offense and say, here you go, kid.
Right.
You still need to have a stable running game to support him. I mean, he's really only going into his 2nd year as the full-time starter, even though it's probably year 5 or 6 for him in reality.
Yeah, and I like that the Packers are being aggressive because when you stare at their division right now, you have to be. It is the Vikings have no idea what they're doing at quarterback right this second. We don't know. They're probably going to try and draft someone, but I don't know that Sam Darnold is your best bet for a starter in 2024. The Bears, I mean, maybe
everyone loves the Bears yet again in this offseason. I mean,
I don't think anyone's going to be picking the Bears to win the division. So right now it feels like a 2-horse race, and the Packers just keep getting stronger. And I think a lot of people, based on what the Packers have done over the past 24 hours, will pick Green Bay to win the division this year. So I agree, Brent. I like what they've done so far.
Yeah, I think it'd be a 50-50 split with Green Bay and Detroit. I agree with you, Breach. There'll be some Bears people out there and some Vikings people too, but largely between the Packers and the Lions, it's a good call. All right, let's go to losers. Sully, who's your loser from day 1 of free agency? Are you going to stick in the division with us?
I will, because it's Justin Fields, and it's bleeding into today too, because we're just seeing all these kind of backup quarterback dominoes starting to fall. But this dude's market is really starting to shrink. I mean, obviously Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta, that was a big team that we all looked at to say, okay, you're outside of the quarterback window in the draft. Could this be a possible destination for Justin Fields? That immediately gets sucked away because obviously Kirk Cousins goes there. We were talking about it, Breach, yesterday, could that be a spot for the Raiders? And they signed Gardner Minshew. And so I don't know if that's going to preclude them from going after Fields, but it does feel like they may go rookie quarterback and have Justin Fields, Gardner Minshew as kind of their veteran to steer the ship there while that guy gets ready to go. I just don't know where he lands. I don't know what spot really makes sense for him, because you look at the top of the draft, I think New England's drafting a quarterback. I think Washington's drafting a quarterback. So there are two QB needy teams that could go for Fields, but have other options. I just don't know where that starting spot is for him right now.
We probably should have seen it. Sorry, but you probably should have seen it coming, by the way, when the Monday after the combine, all the Monday cut with like Albert Beer's column, he had it the year before with like the Bears. Here's what they wanted to trade for the number one overall pick. And he's like, the Bears really don't want a first round pick. They really just take a 2 and a 3 and they'll be good. It's like, this is weird. Like they don't think they can get a very good market for Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that every team that might have needed a quarterback, almost every single one of them has filled their spot. I mean, the Commanders brought in Marcus Mariota. The Patriots brought in Jacoby Brissett. The Falcons, obviously, Kirk Cousins. The Vikings just signed Sam Darnold. The Raiders just signed Gardner Minshew. The Giants just signed Drew Lock. The Steelers just got Russell Wilson. I mean, we're talking about every landing spot is taken out. I think maybe you could say the Broncos, but I don't think that Justin Fields' skill set fits with what Sean Payton wants to do on offense. So I'm not sure that is a good fit. And then the Seahawks maybe could go after a quarterback, but I can't see them trading and giving up draft capital to get Justin Fields, especially when you still have guys out there. You still have Jimmy Garoppolo soon. You still have Ryan Tannehill. So I don't know who is going to get Justin Fields. And even if you want him, who's going to give up a lot of compensation? I can't see him going for more than like a third or fourth round pick now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's like, it almost feels like collusion by the rest of the league to like submerge Justin Fields' value, or it's just like, the reality of the situation is this: Justin Fields is an exciting and thrilling player who has put together some really spectacular highlights, but maybe a bunch of the teams who need a quarterback are thinking like, all right, this guy, you got to pay this guy. And we're not even sure if he's good. We didn't love his tape coming out, et cetera. There's all these different ways. And, you go get Drew Lock for nothing and then try and draft somebody. So, yeah, I think Fields a big-time loser. I'll give mine real quick just because it's in the same division. And it basically pairs up with Sully's winner from earlier. I think the Minnesota Vikings are a loser. I mean, you just couldn't get Kirk Cousins' side. And like, I like the idea of Sam Darnold. We'll get to him in a minute. But, and I like the idea of Aaron Jones, and I think that Kevin O'Connell is a really good coach who will get the most out of these guys. But at the same time, you have this, you basically backed yourself into this corner where you couldn't sign Kirk Cousins, and he walks away to Atlanta. You'll get a comp pick, I assume, at some point. But man, it's just a tough spot for Minnesota.
Yeah, but it also felt like there was a moment there probably like a year ago where like they didn't want to sign him. And it was, we're going to see all our options and all of that. And then all of a sudden it turned into, wait a minute, this is our only option. We should probably try to keep this guy. And it blew up in their face. So I really do think they mismanaged that entire situation with Cousins and didn't have a contingency. I know that, they came out with a statement yesterday saying like, we have contingencies in place. But when your contingency is Sam Darnold, that means you're scrambling. That is not something that you prepared yourself wholeheartedly for like 2+ years. It's not just that you knew that his free agency was coming, but he's also a 35-year-old quarterback that you were ushering in. At a certain point, you should be drafting and developing and trying to find that next guy. I think that ultimately they're going to draft somebody. I think it's 11 overall that they have. Maybe that's like JJ McCarthy, but they have to be very careful because you have a superstar in Justin Jefferson who has already publicly said that he wanted to see how the Kirk Cousins situation played out before he made his decision on signing this mega extension. If he doesn't like what you do, and if he doesn't love Sam Darnold, that opens a can of worms that they might not want.
And then the other part of this is Jonathan.
Traded for T. Higgins. Traded for T. Higgins in a draft, in the Bengals' first or second round draft pick. T. Higgins signs a deal immediately with Minnesota, and you have this LSU reunion breach. What would your head do if that happened?
Well, with the Super Bowl in New Orleans, it'd be a perfect fit. It'd be a great reunion between Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and Justin Jefferson in the Big Easy. But it's not just quarterbacks. The Vikings, we talked about this yesterday. Jonathan Greenard's been their biggest signing so far. And he was someone, as we mentioned, the kind of the red flags there are his career year came in a contract year when you want to see 4 years worth of production versus one. And he's really had, I guess, 1.5 good years. And then the other part of that is you have the Texans who are coached by a defensive coach, a former defensive coordinator, and they do not just let great pass rushers walk out the door. So when they let them leave,
especially with tons of money to spend.
Exactly. So that kind of caught my eye a little bit, especially because I do think even though he did look good last season, I think he's a slight downgrade from Dino Hunter. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm on the same page with you there, Brent, with the Vikings.
Who's your loser, Breach Bot?
Breach Bot 3000. I'm turning on the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh no.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but absolutely the Cowboys are my loser. It mostly becomes Jerry Jones hyped this team up so much this offseason at the Senior Bowl. He said he was going to go all in on 2024. Well, here's what all in means in Dallas. Here is the Cowboys have made more news for a Dak Prescott extortion plot than anything else over the past 24 hours. They have made one signing since the tampering period started. They re-signed their long snapper. That is it. That is the only signing they have. They're one of 5 teams so far through 4:30 p.m. That has not signed an outside free agent. So I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. I know they don't have a lot of money. I do get that. But eventually you got to make a move. I know they were in the market for Zach Moss. And guess what? $4 million per year for Zach Moss. That was too rich for their blood. They backed out, let him go to Cincinnati. So the Cowboys, Breachbot has no longer Breachbot.
I'm getting like weird, I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm getting like weird flashbacks to when they said they were going to go full throttle this offseason. Jerry Jones's comments are basically the same thing. Nothing's happened so far. Now, granted, it is early. They obviously still have the NFL draft. But not only are they not doing anything, but they're losing players too. Like Tony Pollard, it's not just that he was, obviously it was kind of a disappointing year for him as he was assuming the feature back role. But he's still a dude that produced in this offense for a few years. And I don't know where they go to replace that. Like, all of these running backs are kind of coming off the board here. I don't know what that next move is for them. I thought it could be like Joe Mixon. I thought that would make some sense.
Or Derrick Henry.
Or Derrick Henry, sure.
Austin Eckler. Like a lot of these guys would look good in Cowboys uniforms.
I don't know where they go at this point.
Yeah, I don't either. I agree with the Cowboys losers. And it just goes to show that Jerry's not running anything in Dallas anymore. He's talking about how, it's like, we're going all in, and then he doesn't do anything.